Welcome to the show, Brain Health Unchaining Your Pain. I'm here, Dr. Ruth Allen, and I'm with the amazing Jeremy Delk. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm really excited because we're going to go on a bit of a journey, I think, today. And we have no plan, which is the theme of your new book that's out on the 8th of November, Without a Plan. So we're going to do exactly that on this show. But for those that don't know Jeremy, he is the managing director of Delk Enterprises, which has grown from making $6,000 in its first year of business to being a diversified VC fund. And today, more than 20 years later, Delk Enterprises has holdings in biotech and healthcare, consumer brands, technology, building materials, and real estate. So super diverse. And you're now focused on investing and advising entrepreneurs through your speaking and engagements that you do. And I know that your new book, Without a Plan, which shares the good, the bad, and the ugly of entrepreneurship, is going to be so super helpful. That is literally out this week on the 8th of November. So I'm super excited to talk about that.
Thank you.
And before we start, I'd love to know what you're passionate about in life right now.
Well, I think the apropos questions right now, I think that's a great piece. I mean, for me right now, it's family focused. Just took the kids to see, Annie at the theater on Thursday night, have a great time. So just as much I can do to, spend time with the family and engage and just be present there. That's super passionate for me. And the other is doing things like this. I historically haven't been a big speaker, and I've got a small circle of friends. I've had social media for a little bit, but I don't really do it. And a friend of mine, business colleague, kind of said to me one time that, Jeremy, you don't value what you know because you know it. And that really, it's so simple, but it really hit me. I was like, yeah, because business has gotten easier for me the last 5 years as opposed to the first 15. And I think I know a lot of that is just because of experience and trial and errors and failures. And that's a big part of what the book I know you read that's about, is those failures and those lessons that you learn. So now there's a component of me that I feel a bit of an obligation to go and share that, right? And I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room ever. I know enough to be dangerous about a lot of different sectors and industries. But what I found is business is business, and they do business. People do business with people. And if I can, share my story or advice or coaching or anything I can do to help someone out, I think that's a bit of a responsibility, and it's a good feeling to hear that. We're like, hey, that really helped me, or man, I really got motivated and did something and had this idea for 2 years and finally started. Like, that's golden. Like, that's worth more than money to me.
And I know you started it as a business book, but it's very much diversified.
Yeah, it's very much a therapeutic component of I mean, I think it's more personal now than business in there, but yeah.
No, I think it kind of aligns with your passion though, because you finish with your passion in the book, right? Which is all about your family and the importance of family and that connection piece that you mentioned. And you start with family. So I'd love before we start with your journey that got you to where you are today, I'd love to know what is, in the context of your journey, optimal brain health for you personally, because I know you've been on a bit of a roller coaster in that space.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, right? I mean, I've spent a lot of time and more money in therapy, I think. And the first part of it was just a lot of therapy that was just bullshit. You're just doing it just to say you did it. Like, oh yeah, tick that box. I go to the gym, go to therapy. But it wasn't until a few years back when I really just started to go through, because it's scary looking in a mirror, right? It's definitely scary to kind of really go through and analyze it. But once you do it and you do go down a rabbit hole, because we convince ourselves of so many things as humans, right? We convince ourselves that oh, well, as you read my book, my father passed away when I was 7, tragic accident. That's a whole podcast probably of how I associated with that. And for a long part of my adult life, I thought that, yeah, I'm motivated, I'm passionate, I'm this hard charging guy because I lost my dad, and to a degree that I thought I was supposed to be on that bike, maybe with him. But it was through therapy in mid-30s that it was that as a catalyst, but the real component of what would happen to me and what was my motivation was that instability and fear and like what I saw my mother go through and then
Yeah.
subconsciously kind of go through it. So we do a great job as humans of telling ourselves the stories that we feel comfortable with, right? Like when you go through and you meet like, hey, well, this is who I am, this is what I do, and it's really getting uncomfortable and digging into what's going on with you and why, and understanding your own personal journey. And it's painful, but I promise you, and at least from experience, and you'll read in the book, I've had some experiences, it once you go through and start to feel it, then that's the good part, right? Then you understand and you really have true happiness because what you're happy with yourself. And if you can get there, you're unstoppable. You can do whatever you want to do, but you have to do there. And if you think you're there, if you don't feel like you want to throw up and you're like fucking really uncomfortable with it, you're not there. You need to peel back a couple more layers, but that's it. I mean, for me, you can get lost on that path. So for me to answer your long-winded question, what is optimal brain health? It's this a more of a gut check, internal component of questioning myself, like, hey, what am I doing? Am I doing it for the right reasons? Is this in my core values? This is what I want to do, and this is where I want to be. And I think that's optimal for me.
Yeah. Do you know, I love that because you just mentioned one of the really important 5 pillars, and that's connection with yourself. And I always think that the connection with ourselves is the first relationship and the last relationship we'll ever have. It's the one that we have with ourselves. And sometimes we don't pay enough attention to that relationship. And
Yeah.
it can be the worst relationship that we ever have too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't move, and then you self-medicate, right? Which I was very really good at, right? But for me, like you're going through and like everyone is so, and I think it's society that, struggles with this misconception of failure and failure being a bad thing, and feeling vulnerable. I struggled really with being vulnerable because I never wanted to be left again. I never, wanted
Wow.
to feel lost. So I never had feelings. I wouldn't allow myself to feel it. I wasn't sociopathic, but I could just really, I wouldn't let myself be connected because of
Yeah.
fear of not having that control. But here's something. This is my therapist. I'll steal this from Valerie Kershaw, my therapist. And it was fucking really bad. But this is like, if anyone's struggling with vulnerability and what have you, I'll probably get emotional. But this is like, and it's really dark. But it light bulb went off for me. She's like, cause she really kind of understood that, hey, like me losing my dad was a big thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, your son, Graham, if you knew and you had a crystal ball that, God forbid something was going to happen to him tragically at a future point, and you knew what that future point was, what you're saying is, or do you think you would love him less now until that point to protect yourself? And that's such an easy question. Like, a fucking course not. No, that's what that behavior is, right? If you don't allow yourselves to really have your world completely come down, and that's in a marriage, a relationship, a friendship, a partnership, if you are not truly vulnerable, you're really not going to actually feel the entire emotion of that
Yeah.
connection. And that was for me a light bulb of like, wow, now I get, so that needs to be in your core, your core, and really ask yourself in that center, like, hey, is that what we're doing here?
Yeah. And this often comes up with guests on my show is they have for you had an adverse childhood experience. You lost your dad when you were 7, which was super hard. And, when before all the build up to your dad having the accident on his motorbike, I was having all of these flashbacks with my dad on his motorbike with like 3 hats on my head and a helmet on, trying to hold on to his bike,
Yeah.
riding down the street, which I think you were a bit more daring. It was a bit more daring than that, but it's often that people kind of have this need to run away from those emotions, like you say, as you do something. People, and I see it in entrepreneurs quite a lot, is this desire to do the physical activities to avoid the emotional engagement that is with yourself.
Yeah.
So people often spend a lot. Very, very successful people such as yourself can spend a lot of time focusing on being successful, almost as if they're trying to block the emotional content that is part of them. Do you think that's what happened in your case, or?
Yeah, I mean, and this is even indicative still. I mean, I think just from my personality, but you always had this constant need to be busy. I would break things in my business just to fucking fix them. Right. I would like just challenge you, go through like, hey, go through and just completely pushing. I loved this idea of chaos because I could fix it and I felt value. And I had this intrinsic, I'm like, look what I did. I saved this and going through. And it's a lonely place to be. And especially for an entrepreneur, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you've got, I've had hundreds of employees. I've had some bad stuff that are scared the shit out of me. You can't be scared on the outside. Inside, you can be horrified, but outside, you got to be stoic and confident, and you have to be all these things. And it feeds this false sense of purpose and who you are that isn't emotional, right? I mean, it makes you feel good and builds your ego and you get those things, but and you justify it. And that's why you always have to go to another level, another level, another level. And that's when I think, I had that little bit of that epiphany, back, some years ago of like, why am I really doing this? Right. Because I can assure you from being around a couple, very successful, wealthy, there's always another level. You make $1 billion, there's a guy that's got 3. I mean, there is always another level. And if you were just chasing something to chase it for that, you will never get there. And it's going to be a lonely existence as opposed to the alternative. And time is, not on our side, man. Like this life goes by so quick and you only get one chance at it. So many people, I think, discover this purpose and what's important far, far too late when they've lost, loved ones, or when, they've lost relationships, or, they've just, you wait to have that clarity. So much later in life. And it's a shame. And I think that's hopefully what my story can kind of go through, is that just figure out what it is. And if, and entrepreneur, and I'm not trying to make this into a emotional session. Everyone's going to fucking get tissues out and like, stop doing life. I mean,
I've got a cold, so
comparing that to entrepreneurship, I mean, just get going, right? I mean, that's a big part. Like, the subtitle of the book is, a memoir of unbound action and failing my way to success. What got me there is the action, period. Yeah. Right. And I think I hopefully did a decent job of doing it through my colorful language. Is I also offset that language with high tech, high science things that I mastered as a CEO of some of these businesses because I had to, but I didn't have it all done beforehand. Right. I learned as I went and took that information on. And that was so important. And that wasn't a hindrance or something that was a bad thing. It actually turned out to be a much better thing, because if I would have had it all figured out and had a plan, it would have been the wrong plan. Yeah. And I would have stopped way too early to where I ended up.
I love that. And I just, we connected through Steve Sims, who always goes for stupid which is his new book out too. And I know that, this thought that you just go do with no plan, which you did when you were 18. I'd love if you could just share a little bit of the start of your journey of being that entrepreneur that, well, one could say you were doing Steve Sims go for stupid and just pushing the envelope.
Well, I'm a German English kid, which I didn't even know that, because like in Kentucky, where I'm from, You don't really know lineage or heritage because like you're a mutt, right? It's not like you're even New York, you're first generation Italian, whatever. So I always knew that, oh, Sinatra, I'm a big Sinatra fan. I always, that whole adage, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, talking about New York. So the only thing I had to know about New York was really movies. And then in those movies, you were either in the mafia or on Wall Street. I don't think I had the pedigree to be in the mafia, so I guess Wall Street was my second thing. So I had a $30,000 inheritance, and I knew I was going to get that. And I'm like, wow, I want to, do something with this. Like, this is an opportunity. Not, how do I make a bad this situation with my dad passing? Like, how can I maximize this? So at 16, 17, I started reading Investor Business Daily, Wall Street Journal, completely self-taught. My mom, God love her, has always been supportive of all my stupid brainiac, crazy ideas, and just let me go and fail. But it has worked out, despite her just caution and shaking her head sometimes. So she gave me access to be able to trade my account at 17 under hers. And this was like early, this is 2000, no, 2000, this is 97. So very early advent of online trading, and started, understanding the market, thinking about reading and trades and understanding a little bit of the ins and outs. I was looking at message boards online, and I cash out my my Disney stock and 20th Century Ultra funds, and started day trading Qualcomm and JDS Uniphase. And it was just small little iterative things. I, make a trade, made $1,000, like $1,000 in the late 90s for a college student. It's like $1 billion, right? I'm like, wow. And you can make $2,000, $3,000. And then my first little aha, I'm a genius, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett kind of guy, was in an econ class where this professor is talking. I'm now trading on a Palm Pilot, internet, like a wireless, Palm Pilot that had AT&T coverage, I think at the time, which was like Star Trek. And I was day trading, and I'd made like $30,000 in class. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know what his salary was, 50 grand, but I've just made a huge chunk of your salary in class. Like, what could I learn from you? Which was nothing, because I'm a, 18-year-old know-it-all. And I grew that $30,000 into about, $2 million and change. And
in what time period did you manage to do that? Just to contextualize it for people who
I
are
was
listening.
19. I was 19, and I was making so much money. I'd moved out my freshman year. I was building up. I bought a condo, like a beautiful, 1-bedroom condo, bachelor pad. Bought a Grand Cherokee. Had a fake ID, but I didn't have to use it because I was spending so much money in bars, just buying out the shots for everyone and just having a great time. And so that was 1999. So 18 months, 2 years, I grew it. So that's impressive. And what's more impressive is that I managed to lose all of it in 4 days. So that was
with a stock market crash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the early 2000s. So
but you didn't rest on your laurels, though, did you? Because you picked yourself up again. People noted that you'd been incredibly successful, albeit lost it all, but nevertheless you were incredibly successful in that very short period of time, and that earned you a place in the city, in New York City.
Yeah, well,
with a lot of hard work to get there, of course, because it doesn't just land on your lap.
But no direction. Like, as I said, I wanted to end up in New York, and I was in school in Rhode Island, and I felt sorry for myself, and I could only do that for a few days because I still had to make bills. Like, my mother would give me the share of her back, but didn't have one to give me. So I had no safety net, and I still had bills. So I had to go out and earn it. And I did all kinds of odd jobs. I think that's why I think there's a universe, higher power, whatever your faith system is. Like, you have to understand that you just got to go and take action. Just go out and do it. I can guarantee you, me sitting on the couch and feeling bad for myself for 5 days or 6 days, it's not going to, like, once you do that, that's a process. Cool. But you have to understand that it's not going to be anything of productivity. Like, cool, whine, cry, but get over it, and get over it fucking quickly. And then just put yourself back out there, because to your point, after 4 odd jobs that you'll learn about in the book, I ended up getting a job and becoming the youngest broker at Fidelity Investments, and then moved to Boston and then New York. No way did I have any of that fucking shit figured out, or how I was going to get there, but I ended up in that dream job, which I quit, a year later and went on my own. But yeah, you just have to take action and go through in that forward motion in business. You never know if it's a startup or you're in business for 5 years. The longer you're in business and the longer you're moving in your entrepreneurial journey, the more you're harder to kill, right? And most things that fail are internal, not external, right?
Yeah.
You've failed mainly because you've quit.
Yeah.
Fall down, get yourself back up. You haven't failed, right? But that's the killer of deals. Not getting started is the biggest one. And the second is this, and because you're not getting started because you're scared of what people are going to say if you fail. What if this? It doesn't fucking matter what anyone says. You just gotta be happy and just go. And what if it does? What if you did fail? Cool. Go home with your mom.
You learn a lot of lessons on the way, and you pick yourself up and you go and do something.
You're harder to kill. You're more powerful. You understand. You've had experiences as opposed to like sitting on the sidelines. You just got to get out there.
Yeah. What was the hardest piece of failure that for you on your journey? What was the hardest bit to pick yourself back up from?
I mean, that one was pretty hard. Losing all that money was really hard. Yeah, that was really, and I think it was hard for me because it was my dad's money too. Yeah, I think that was why it's really. So I was like, it wasn't like if I lost, and I've lost my money. But I mean, I'm aggressive as hell as from business standpoint, but I don't care. It's just money because I can make more. I've done it enough, so I'll just throw out there. But the fact that it wasn't my money, it was probably harder for me.
Yeah, so I noticed it choked you up a bit when you said that out loud as well.
Yeah, so I think that, and like that was a failure component. Like, oh my God, I did this, and like I squandered it or whatever, and then I just I was fearful, felt bad for myself, and whatever. So that was probably the hardest. I think that was, to answer your question, that was probably the hardest failure for me. But retrospectively, 5, 10, 20 years later, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Ever. It was the best $2 million. I'd lose 20. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because I was a young, cocky idiot that didn't know anything, that thank God it happened to me at 20, and not at 40 when I had kids and private school and all this other shit that you have, so that you had actually real responsibility. So I think that was it. Which you would think is, and I won't skip around some of the other pieces, but, walking away from, $500 million, like you think that would be it, but it was 2 million. It was that's what it was.
I'd love to dive into the $500 million walk away because, you actually went into selling a business, didn't you? If you just want to explain the story, at a much lower price.
Much lower,
the offer that came off the table.
Yeah. So this was, later in my career. I'd been in healthcare, a couple of different businesses and had some successful exits. And this was in a compact
window salesman as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't forget the building materials and real estate development, but that was just a little hop over. But so this business was something that I had my own healthcare journey, and transformation, which, really opened my eyes up because I mean, I know you're a doctor as well, but I didn't put much clout in doctors because I seen how it was. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to go to the doctor unless I was like deathly ill. I mean, I didn't have a first surgery until like a year ago when I tore bicep, being stupid, but I just didn't have a lot of faith in the system, but I was super unhealthy. So long story short, we started this pharmacy business with a partner of mine, and the medications that we were doing, a lot of them were integrative health, functional medicine, and
which is still new. This is still a new.
Oh yeah, so I mean, it's more and more. It's getting more and more mainstream. I think that's what is exciting. That with knowledge there is power there. But I mean, I lost 70 pounds in a few months, and I'm still in decent shape and work out, often and on a regular with a trainer, and I was really excited to make this mainstream and have made several investments past that, to do so. And we scaled that company from 0 to a couple hundred employees, 50 something million in revenue. And we were making a lot of money along the way. So much so, like, I've got billionaire friends. I got 2 billionaire friends, I guess, not multiple, but I've got enough that I've seen a lot, right? And um, I wasn't living too terribly different than they were. Like, I was chartering my plane, they owned theirs, and we're staying different places. But you know, I wasn't happy for a big chunk of that until I changed some things in my life. But I was content, and we'd always gotten people coming to us and making offers. So we were never positioned to sell. So I think that's lesson one before the story is don't get into a business to sell it.
Yeah.
It should be something you love, and you can make money at it, but it should be something you're passionate about or care about and want to make a difference. And you're so obsessed about that you just if your customers don't get this, you failed. That's the obsession you need. Don't get like, oh, well, this business in this market trades at 12x, EBIT. Like, that's stupid. Don't do that. And we just had our head down, and we grew to an Inc. 500, 24th fastest growing company, fourth fastest growing company in healthcare. We were head down and just really, really driving customer focused, good products, and some innovation. We made a lot of mistakes and probably didn't pay what didn't not probably didn't always tick every box from a regulatory standpoint. But we would always get solicitation like, hey, you need investment, we were making gross a couple $1 million a month, and it was me and a partner, right? I mean, it's hard to spend that much money. I fucking tried, but it's hard to spend that much money.
I just want
And
to pause you there because you glossed over some really important stuff. And I'm not going to say what it is, but you've got to read Jeremy's book to find out all of the ins and outs of what happened with the company that you had to work through that
oh
you
yeah,
never
well, I mean,
expected to happen.
yeah, well, I think this is maybe this karmic shift that I talk about. It's on the excerpt at the back of the book that kind of hopefully teases you through. I'll do that. Here's a teaser. So the difference between 600 million and $1 billion is immaterial. You cannot spend it. The offer on the table was 600 million. I had a choice. I could sell my company, or I could build $1 billion company. That's rare air. Suddenly, my thumb's flying across my phone, typing an email. At this time, we have decided to pause our discussions. ... Sent. The office went quiet until a minute or so later. Ryan said, "Well done. You killed it." He meant killed it as in slam dunk success. I said, "What do you mean killed it? I just called the deal off." He said, "No, it's done," Ryan said, expecting him to come back to us in the summer with an even bigger offer. Whether he was right didn't matter to me. Regardless of how you use the word, I just killed a $600 million deal, and I felt great. I knew I wasn't invincible, but I was starting to feel that way. Similar to the 18-year-old kid, right? And just like in college, that feeling of invincibility was quickly followed by a karmic bitch slap heard around the world. 5 days later, after walking away from more than $500 million on the table, 20 federal agents raided our offices. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah. And we ended up selling it for a lot less than $600 million. But I've been asked 100 times, Steve, whatever, I would do it every day again. I would turn it down. The deal would have probably kicked anyway, with the terms and the clauses. But for me, I was making so much money. The deal was structured where they were going to give me 40 million or 50 million, 40 million in cash for 10%, which is basically a deposit, and then an option to buy me out at 600 million a year later. And we were on a rocket ship. And I know this sounds very egotistical, but I literally said to myself, fuck your 40 million. Like, I can make that in 18 months, and then you'll pay me $1 billion. And that was my mindset. And I still fucking live by that and whatever. But because I thought that was my chance to build $1 billion business. And to me, that would have been a really cool milestone. Small town kid from Kentucky. And again, it wasn't going to change the way I was living because we were already making really good income. So I would do it over again. The exact same. Well, I would have turned the deal down. I would have done a lot of different things regulatory wise. So,
but you had a bit of a Desert Storm moment as well, didn't you? Not in the context that people are aware of, but you took the desert by storm, shall we say?
I did. That's a good one. You may go through that story?
Yeah, I'd love you to share it because it's kind of like me. Some of the parts of the book, I mean, this was just
Yeah.
like out of this world experience, but other parts, just I felt like I was in Hangover.
Yeah. Right. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it makes for a good story for sure. Um, so yeah, this was in our healthcare, our animal healthcare business, and we started this regenerative medicine company to help, dogs, horses, cats with osteoarthritis. So using stem cells, like the body's own repair system, in those ages. So I was at the Derby, and had some vet friends in. My partner rang me up. He's like, "Oh, mate, you Australian. Oh, mate, are you ready to go to the land of sand, JD?" I'm like, drinking. I'm like, "What are you talking about, man?" And he's like, "We got the call. Sheikh Hamdan, who's the crown prince, wants to." No, this I think that was first. It was Sheikh Khalifa. Fast forward, went to Abu Dhabi, did some stuff. We were over there and to meet Sheikh Hamdan, and we got blown off for several days. And on the sixth day, we're like, "Dude, we appreciate the free hotels and $30,000 airline tickets, but like, we're serious people here. What are we going to do?" And if you've ever been to Dubai, we were staying at Emirates Towers right on Sheikh Zayed Road. And so here's Emirates Towers, and here is the Beale Palace. So it's
Uh-huh.
like, similar to Buckingham Palace, right?
Yeah.
Where royal family is. So it's just a quick, jaunt across, 5 minutes max, 7 with traffic. And we go and get in this, a fleet of white Lexus SUVs, 4 of them, for 4 of us. We turned down 2 and took 2, and we just started driving and driving and driving. And like, I started looking in the background, and that's the cover of the book, actually, which is pretty cool. This is Dubai, and this is basically fucking me out here, like, oh shit, what's happening? Like, is this a one way thing? And then you talk about movies, like, have you seen Casino, right? With
Yeah.
Pesci and De Niro, like that's what I thought. Like, is this a one way trip? And like, what have we done to piss off somebody? And I started singing Sinatra, and I won't do it because my voice is horrible. But the end is near. I like just like laughing, like fucking. This is how it goes. And we were pleasantly surprised. Came across probably one of the most, still the most beautiful stables I've ever seen in my life. It was Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum's private stables, and sat down, and we're meant to get 15 minutes with him, and spent about an hour, just
Wow.
under an hour. And yeah, it was a surreal, just a great. I mean, it was such a cool experience to meet a man like that, with the visionary and what he's done for the horse industry, camels. He's a huge animal lover, and just he built a city out of sand. And it's a global. They just had World 2020 there. And or Expo 2020, which is amazing. So it was a cool experience.
Wow. I mean, it's such a beautiful place to buy anyway, but to be able to have that impact with, the figurehead
Yeah.
of the country, and who like you say, is so passionate about the equine industry and animals in general, and to be able to have that inroad is just amazing. Before we dive into the rest of your story, I know we started off with this sort of emotional shutdown for you, given that you lost your dad when you were super young. So I'd love to dive into the fun facts, which is looking at the 5 pillars of brain health, where F is for feelings, A is for actions, C is for connections, T is for thoughts, and S is for surroundings. And we're going to dive into feelings, given we talked about that initially. What's the funniest or most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
Most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. I'm not often ever stumped. Embarrassing. I mean, I think I would say, okay, the feeling. I think the embarrassing thing, the biggest thing that's ever happened to me was obviously the spoiler on this, turned out $600 million in this FBI deal. I mean, I think I was able to build, a pretty. I think my history and trouble with law enforcement was speeding tickets in my Ferrari, up until that point. And that changed with having regulatory actions. And
Yeah.
I took a charge for, under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. So that probably was the biggest embarrassing component to me, and just not being able to say something. And we were wrong, so I don't want there to be anything like I'm not some fucking victim and like, oh, I was a bad deal. Like we did things. Thank God we didn't hurt anybody, and we were very safe. And we didn't hurt anyone. There was no impact from that standpoint, from a victim perspective. But we went fast and hard, and definitely did not tick all the box that we needed to do from a regulatory standpoint. So I take full responsibility for that, but and very grateful that I could have had a worse outcome. I'm sure. But I think that was the biggest thing, that it was more of a stain on my legacy, I think, from embarrassment. And I think that's a big part of why I wrote the book. Hopefully, more than my mom buys the book, and someone gets out of it. But I really wrote it for as to it's dedicated to my wife and to the kids.
And the 2 kids, Graham and
it's very much not a glorification of my life. I mean, literally, I think it makes for a good story. But I don't think anyone can call me disingenuous or think I've held anything back. I mean, I put myself out there, where my biggest enemy wouldn't have any dirt on me. Like, I threw it all out there, and I did that because if you're not comfortable with yourself, it's who you're comfortable with, right? And you're not real. So that's probably the biggest embarrassment that's ever happened to me, and that's something I'm ashamed of. I'm not proud of it, right? Because I think what I could have went on to do, and still will. I mean, I'm still building businesses. I'm still helping them doing things, but that was tough. And then I think you go through and like, wait, I can't be some fraud of talking about success and overcoming adversity, other stuff. I'm just going to fucking crawl in a hole. So what do? You go through, and that was a few years ago, and I've we've got we're doing well, and we're making big businesses and making big impacts, and we're excited. So I think that's proof to the story longer term, and I think that'll be book 2, lesson 2 for folks to say, hey, you can. Everyone. Steve says this. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the fucking face by Tyson, right? That's a right hook by Tyson, what I took, but I'm still here, and I think that's encouragement that whatever thing you went through as an entrepreneur, that wow, that really sucked. It'll make you stronger, man. It really will.
And your dad had a bit of a rumble with the law himself, didn't he? And it actually made, you mentioned in the book, it actually made him stronger and seemed to make him closer to your mum.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was that aha moment for I think him, that kind of converted him and kind of maybe calmed him down a bit, right? Because I think when my mom, I think is in the book, my mom was 15, he was 17 when they first met, and love, married, and straight away. But he's still a kid. Both of them were still kids. She waited till she was 21 till she had me. But yeah, I mean, you need that. And that was a huge part of perspective. I'd already done a lot of healing therapy and trying to figure out what was important to me prior to this FBI thing. But that was the biggest perspective. Like, money is one thing. You can make more of that. But like, being away from your kids potentially, and that's sobering. And that's really puts into perspective of like, hey, this is a real big gut check moment for you, man.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because it obviously was a really difficult time for you, and you had kids at the time as well, and it was a real roller coaster. So I just encourage people to read that and how you got through that. Just going on to actions, because we also talked about this. What's the most rewarding or fulfilling thing you have ever done? And you've done a lot of stuff.
The most fulfilling, I think, is the actions of just being present with the kids. I think that's really it. We're a 2-family household now, and I am a zillion percent, and anyone that's been around me and my kids, and while I was full time, and now I have, unfortunately or fortunately, 50-50 custody. So I have still at 50-50. I'm running to school, pick them up. I'm doing drop off. I was 100%. I'm 100% more present with the actions of the kids, and me taking, last weekend it was a 4 o'clock football to a 6 o'clock lacrosse game, to a 7 o'clock lacrosse game, to a 6 a.m. go-karting session all day, to a Sunday 3 o'clock football game. And I was happy, right? I'm happy to do that and be there and be present and stuff. So that action and that dividend is priceless.
What was the catalyst for that? Because obviously you had quite a shift, didn't you? What was the catalyst to know that you needed to spend more time with your kids? Was it COVID? Was it the change in the relationship? Was it the FBI experience? What really catalyzed you into making that shift?
I think maybe to a degree that fear, but that lodged in and stuff, that the degree of it, it was not having them. It's what you take. It's like anything, right? Like you take it for granted, right?
Yeah,
You take it for granted, like the people that we love and that the people that we have in our lives. And if you don't call, you don't check in, you don't go through that. And that was for me. My kids were always there. So me working late, 7:30, fine. Oh, the kids are in bed. I missed them, whatever. I'll see them tomorrow. I don't have dinner meetings when I have my kids. So you just make it a priority because I now don't have that control because I only have them certain amount of time. So I think that was a catalyst of like, you're there. Our weekends, like, and then we've got obviously friends that
yeah,
haven't been divorced and they have friends like, what are you doing? Like, no, and they know that they all of our friends know our schedules that, we're blessed and have some resources and have nannies and we have all that stuff, but that's not what it's for. Like I have for extra hands, but we are there, right? I'm there picking
yeah,
up, I'm doing those things. So I think it's, you forget about that. So I think it's the not having it and realizing that, wow, you took something for granted. Here's your opportunity to do better and maximize that. Someone said with kids, and it's, you get 14 or 15 summers. That's all you get. First couple, they don't remember. 18, they don't want to be with you anyway, right? So you only have those 14 summers to really enjoy, and that goes fucking really quick, man.
yeah, yeah. It does. I mean, I've got a daughter, Lily, who's 3.5, and she doesn't want to be with us on some weekends because she wants to go to her auntie Claire's.
Right, right.
She says, "Mummy and Daddy, you can go away. You go away and do your own thing. I want to have a play date with Auntie Claire." So yeah, it does go super fast, even at 3.5. So I do really get that. And you know, what would you do differently? Is there anything you would have done differently in the context of that time? Because we know we can't win back time. You can just
Um,
make better use of it. Is there anything, reflecting back, that you or advice you would give to entrepreneurs who just kind of burning the candle at both ends and missing out on that time?
yeah, I mean, I told myself when I was 20, when I left Fidelity, making a bunch of money and doing really well, that the story I told myself is I want to go be in business because I never want to be controlled and miss a soccer game or a football game or whatever. I think that was a lie from the 20-year-old. I think the guy that just wanted to be really rich, but I think I justified that as my motivation, and it wasn't true. And then I later justified like, oh well, I'm busy, but Graham's so young, he's not missing anything. Which now, like the years I wasn't as present on Graham, I was present with Ava. And it's like, fuck. I mean, she's a girl, so it's daughter. I mean, you get that father-daughter connection, which is a whole other element. But it goes back to why you're doing it. And even if you're an entrepreneur that doesn't have kids or family, whatever, like, and maybe you don't, and you're passionate about the environment or animals or whatever it is that fills your bucket up, right, and that makes you excited and passionate. Make sure that's what you're doing. There's a phenomenal book by a guy I'm acquaintance with down from Necker Island, named what's his name? I've just lost Perkins, Bill Perkins. It's called Die with Zero. It's the simplest, quickest, easiest read, and it's the fucking most profound thing ever. And we've had several conversations about what is, if you want to give money to your kids, don't wait until you die. Give them to you when they're 25 because they really need it. If you want to give money to charity, when you die, give it to them now because your charity can use it. So it's just this adage of like, it's similar, not dissimilar, but he's with money. Take it action now. If you want to you want to take the trip now. You want to go and, marry love your life, go and do that now. You want to go and make the hire, start the business, buy the company, expand the product line, fucking do it now because none of us are promised tomorrow.
Yeah. And a lot of people have tomorrow syndrome, don't they? I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
Never
And
happens.
tomorrow never comes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. I'd love to go into connection to yourself, because we also started with connection to yourself and how you kind were avoiding that emotional connection with you. What's the most important value that guides you in life?
The value. I mean, I think the biggest thing that happened from the connection is the thing I talked about with that realization of, would you not love your son if you knew to protect yourself? And it's so simple, but it was, it was profound enough for me that, and then because that would cheapen the love, right? Because if you're really holding back, then you don't have that unconditional love.
Yeah.
Because for especially with a partner, a spouse, even business, or to a degree, but a friend, you often don't get that. But kids, it's unconditional. You don't question it. So that's why it was important. Like, wow, of course not. I would never love me. You would never do that. And then she echoed it back with, well, then you don't really ever experience that true vulnerability. You don't experience a full level of love and connection. So it's getting comfortable with being vulnerable, and it's getting comfortable with, being hurt. Because that's part of it. It's yin and yang. It's both sides of the of the emotion spectrum, right? So it's hard, and it's not easy. And I'm going to skip to your thoughts, maybe, because I say this, and I even talked about some of my beliefs, and even like universe energy and all those things. I'm pretty good at it. I don't react to bad shit most of the time. Even the FBI thing, I think I pulled myself out of it emotionally, but I fucking grabbed down like, Jesus, the world's ending, the sky's falling. Those negative thoughts, besides being complete poison, have zero productivity, fucking none. So like, and your thoughts have impact. I assure you, your thoughts, energy is energy. It has power. I'm telling you that negative stuff, you have negative people in your life. I don't believe in cutting people out, but fucking limit them, right? You, you can hit next. You don't have to always take the damn call, right? Put them on a fucking weekly cycle. Don't cut them out. That's just not good. But
because they could be family or
no, yeah, it could be anyone, but like, just limit it. But you know what happened? I can't exactly divulge this. This is not me, but someone close to me that I know has implemented this, and it's been a better engagement, because the person or persons that may be, negative, or whatever, that that emotion that you don't want, they now feel scarcity of like, well, if I call Dr. Ruth, she's always answers, so I'm just gonna fucking go through. But if I only get Dr. Ruth like every 5th call, I'm actually gonna just try and talk to her about some shit that matters, that's important. So you actually have a better relationship, and it's better for both sides. But yeah, your thoughts are power, man, and you just have to go through. And you're feeling bad for yourself, who gives a fuck, man? Just who cares? Like, no one cares. I promise you, no one cares. Get over it. You're not. Everyone has problems.
Yeah, I agree. We pay too much attention to the negative self-talk, and we don't even realize it's rumbling in the background of our minds, and it eats you up. But not only that, is we'll play back you mentioned the people you connect with, is you can have energy vampires in your life.
No, and they suck it. Like, yeah, they latch on. They latch on. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, you have to extract yourself to reboot yourself back to some normality of who you are. Exactly. And it's so important that you find, I like to call it like your growth friends, is to find that network of people who are always going to push you to be at that next level, or always going to give you more, is going to be more and help you be the next level in life. And you mentioned that you were always hungry for more success, more happiness, more money, more, and you've got to surround yourself with people that push you to that next level. And if you don't, you're going to be stuck, or you're going to be, people will suck the life out of you, and you'll diminish yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you also, ask anyone, like ask your grandparents, right? Last 20 years, who's been your friends? I guarantee you it's 5 or less. Yeah. And it's not just because people have passed away or whatever, but like, that's really where we have relationships. Like, I think, my kid's school just had this whole thing with Social Dilemma, right? That's a Netflix documentary and whatever. And this whole thing with social media, which is why I have to be on it, I guess. But I'm not. I don't ever want to be some influencer person, but you do have to kind of do it in this day and age, but be selective. But not everyone needs to be your fucking friend, and not everyone needs to like you. It's okay. And like, there's I don't know if you've been seeing this on Instagram or it's ads, but it's a bit sobering. But like, do you know what happens? This is, a bridge, but do you know what happens after you die? Right. About 3 or 4 hours after you die, people are going to stop crying. 5 hours later, your family's going to start to feed people. Then they're going to start telling and it's like, basically they're going to, it complains how quickly you can be, forgotten versus remembered.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we spend so much of our lives giving a fuck what someone thinks about us? Right? Why? And I'm not saying that's to be a bad person. Be you. Be the best you. And you have to be authentic with yourself. You got to be okay with it. And if you're a bad person, then you need to not be okay with that and try and get better. But do that for you. Get better for you. And then just be comfortable with yourself. And then you will find you'll have a deeper relationship with your wife, your husband, your friends, the ones that are real, and the ones that aren't, who fucking cares? Right. Right. You don't need them.
And what's next for you personally? Because you're always getting itchy feet. You're always wanting to do something different, to push the envelope, to go for stupid.
Yeah, I want to just kind of, just help continue to tell my story. And, I love kind of helping entrepreneurs, coaching entrepreneurs. I invest in a lot of businesses. So a lot of my coaching clients end up becoming like investments that I'll make in businesses that I'm interested in. I like to just meet new people. I like to learn. I think that's the part of me that's always, and I hope you would have got this from the book, all the businesses, there's no direct correlation between, stocks, windows to epigenetics, period. There's none. But I made them, right? I got there. And it's just this overwhelming desire and urge to want to learn more. I think that's really where it all kind of stems from, and be curious. So I'm having a blast with this. I mean, I'm having a blast on my story. I mean, I love perspective. I love, some people, I mean, everyone's gonna have opinions about my book, and I welcome them. And I think there's something in there for everyone. And you're a hard charging CEO, hard charging entrepreneur, thinking about going out into business, stay at home, whomever. I think there's something for someone to take away. And if I can help touch one person, that's a success for me. So I'm having fun doing this. I want to meet more people, do more podcasts, do coaching, and continue investing and having fun in business and seeing new things. It's a passion.
And I love the fact that you never rested on your laurels. You never stayed in a certain lane. You're kind of like a racing car that was happy to go on across all the lanes in your Ferrari, not caring if you're going to get a speeding ticket, but you're going to get.
You're going somewhere. Don't know where, but we're going somewhere. Yeah, we're not going to get any. We won't get any parking tickets. Only speeding.
but like, it's not, like, because I used to have a Porsche, don't have one now because I have a child, but it's about the journey, isn't it? It's like when you go for a drive in a nice car, or any car really, you might have a set on the destination, but actually it's about enjoying the journey, especially if you're driving a nice car.
No, exactly. I mean, 100%. And that's why I tried to, and hopefully I did a good job. Everyone, especially with social media, I've been bashing social media, like everyone compares themselves to the next person with this car, that car. Like, dude, who cares? Like stop. That's not important. And if you're trying to chase them and get there, and I tried that for a period of my life, like you can't car and watch yourself to death, right? I mean, and you try happiness rather. You just have to enjoy it and have fun. And like, to me, I'm a big experience person. Like that really needs to be there. And then with this journey, when you get it out of your head that you have an endpoint, then you get really fun, right? Then it's just like, this is so cool, right? Because it's like a roller coaster. You don't know where the next turn is going to come, but it's going to be interesting, and it's probably something you haven't seen before. So strap in and enjoy, and hopefully take the people that you love with you.
I love that. And I want to ask a question just before we come to a close, because we're coming to time. Is has your why shifted, and what would you say it is now?
I mean, it's shifted a ton through my career, um, but now um, in the last few years, it's been very much kind of family
Uh-huh.
and trying to be just a better version of myself. I still struggle with stuff. I'm still far from perfect, right? But just trying to have that gut check of doing the right thing for the right reasons and trying to be a good friend, a good husband, and a good father. That's been the biggest piece of my why. And and if I can help people, I get that back in spades, and not always monetarily. I get it back from like, hey, there's a server at one of my favorite restaurants in town, John. Like, I'll make sure he actually sees this. Hopefully, he said to me a couple months ago, because you do all these podcasts, you do all these things, and you don't think anyone fucking actually watches them, but I guess I got a fair audience, and some people actually do. Um, and he came up to me, he's like, "Mr. Delk." I'm like, "Don't ever call me Mr. Delk. It's Jeremy." But he's like, "I just want to say I've watched all your YouTube content. I watch everything, and just thank you so much. I'm like your inspiration." Like that is everything. Everything. So that's my why.
Yeah. Do you know, thank you for sharing that, because you can change someone's life, and that person can change 100 people's lives.
Yeah,
And it's that ripple effect, isn't it?
it
So
is.
it's not always about the volume of people that see it, but it's about the impact that you make on those that do. So
No,
it's a
for sure.
really,
And to plug a fellow Brit, now that since we're on with you, I don't know if we just put it on YouTube a couple of days ago, but check it out and maybe even put it in show notes or
oh
something.
yeah, we'll do all of that.
Yeah, this is for this a guy I met um down at Branson's place down in Necker 10 years ago. His name's Gumption. And I did like a 30-minute interview, 40-minute interview with him. And it's exactly what you just said. Because everyone says like, "Oh, how do you know Branson?" or "How do you do this?" And we're like, "Cool, like Branson's astronaut 001, he's awesome." And don't get, but it's what Branson and Larry Page did as a $50,000 investment to change this guy's life. Watch this interview and see who he's touched.
Yeah,
It's fucking amazing. And I think, and I'm sure Branson's done so much good. I mean, that's never ending. But that's just one impact of one person he touched. That I yeah, 100 times he's paid
yeah.
that forward, and it's just amazing. And you never know what it could be. So just be nice, right? Just be nice. Try and help, and that's it.
I love that. What one piece of advice, Jeremy, would you give to anyone who's struggling as an entrepreneur, given this show's all about brain health and unchaining your pain? What one piece of advice would you give to an entrepreneur who's struggling to really find their why, to take the action that you mentioned was so important?
Yeah, I think webbed into the why is what is the thing that you're struggling with wanting to do, right? So it's I want to start a business, I want to expand my business, I want to go out on my own, I want to do that. Why do you want to do that? And that's when you need to start peeling about the onions. Well, it's because I want to buy a bigger house. That's fucking not it. You need to get down to the core and keep peeling that back. It's freedom. It's I want to spend more time with my kids. And then okay, now once you have that emotional component, like this is what I want,
Mm,
and it's visceral, right? Now that's powerful. You can use that. You can't, oh, I want a bigger house. Like that's you can fake that, but you need like, I want freedom for my kids, or my kid has a certain learning disability or helping. I need this medication. You need to find that why,
yeah,
really lock into it. And then once you're there, then who cares? Well, you fail. Cool. Keep on going. Fail again. Go through and put your own comfort zones. You don't have to go crazy like me and just go, completely wide open without any, on a tightrope without any net. But just make something that's uncomfortable for you to just make one piece, right? So I want to get uncomfortable and, ask 100 people for, feedback on it. Do it. And then if I get feedback and it's 70% positive, then that next step. Then you have these small little steps that lead to miles and miles and miles of progress. But just take the first step that puts you a little uncomfortable, hone in on why you want to do it, what you're passionate about it, and then go. And it could not be something, it could be outwardly. Hey, I want to change healthcare. I want to help mental health. I want to, whatever it is, that
yeah.
becomes your passion. then that's why you're passionate about that. If I don't do this, people are going to suffer. My
Yeah.
customers are going to be. You're going to create a better positive. That needs to be your why, and then just that one step forward, and then
Yeah.
another, and then another.
And I think it comes back into that fear factor, is you've got to get emotionally connected with your why, so that you fear the consequences of not doing it rather than the fear of doing it, if that makes sense. I love that. How can people get hold of you and find out more about what you do, your book, Without a Plan?
Yeah, so Out of Plan, in Barnes and Noble, Amazon, bookstores everywhere. I'm Jeremy S. Delk on all social medias, and then jeremydelk.com. So yeah, reach out. I'm happy to do consults, coaching, podcasts, business ideas, investment opportunity, whatever you need. I'm excited to do. I don't manage all my social, but someone always makes sure if I miss something on a connection, they're emailing me to me. So I am, hopefully I'm pretty responsive, right? I mean, going
Yeah,
back and
you really were. Like, I
yeah,
was really surprised. I
yeah,
was going to say shocked, which is probably true too,
yeah,
because
yeah.
you
I
got
mean,
back to me straight away. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah. And sometimes things fall through the cracks, but I've got a team that helps me out, and I'm here. But I want to hear from you, right? And if you think your question is dumb, I promise it's not, because I probably had the same question at a certain point in my life. So go through, and if you don't feel like asking me, ask somebody, right? There's people out there that want to help, and if I can be of service, I'd love to be.
So do make sure you check out Jeremy's new book, Without a Plan. I had the privilege to be able to read it early. It was absolutely amazing and so much fun to read. It's not a normal business book that you have to trawl through. It's got entered. I'm smiling from ear to ear just thinking about it. Brought up so many memories from my past in so many different ways. I definitely think it's something that everyone can relate to, and you can be successful, as Jeremy has shown, without a plan. So do go check that out. Jeremy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me on my show. If there's anything I can do for you or those people that you network with, I'd love to stay in touch and get connected and continue on with going without a plan, as we've done on this podcast.
Awesome, Doc. I really appreciate it, Doctor. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I had such a good time, and let's definitely stay in touch.
Definitely. You're most welcome.